Let's be honest with each other for a second. Modern ads are kind of boring. I know it's a big claim, but look around. So many of them feel sanitized, safe, and just forgettable. They feel like they were made by a focus group that was terrified of offending absolutely anyone. We're living in this age of aesthetic consensus, a digital sea of sameness where every corporation seems to have secretly agreed on the exact same way to be uninteresting. You know what I'm talking about. It's that same clean geometric sans serif font. It's the same gentle, inoffensive pastel color palette, or maybe a single bold color background if they're feeling really spicy. It's the same minimalist layout with acres of empty space where the product just sits there all alone as if it's been quarantined from any sign of actual life. And it's always paired with the same vague aspirational tagline about connection or simplicity or the future. It's a visual language that just screams designed by committee. It's safe, it's clean, it's optimized for a phone screen, and it has all the personality of a plain rice cake. This isn't just a hunch, it's a pattern of creative surrender. But it wasn't always this way. There was a time when advertising felt like an art form, when it was daring, when it had swagger, when it was bursting with ideas and energy. To prove it, we're going to take a little trip back in time. We're going to dissect a single ad from the 1950s that I believe proves advertising used to have a soul, and in doing so, shows everything that's missing today. The exhibit. So let's leave the bland world of the 2000s and 20s behind and travel back about 60 years. The year is 1955. The world is looking forward. The war is over, the economy is booming, and the future feels like it's being delivered to your doorstep every day with some miraculous new technology. And advertisers had the amazing job of introducing that future to the world. The piece of evidence I want to present is an advertisement for a fictional 1955 refrigerator, the Galaxy Super Chill 800. Now, I know what you're thinking. A refrigerator ad? Really? But bear with me, because this isn't just an ad, it's a masterpiece of persuasion, it's a time capsule, and it's a lesson in creative courage. The first thing that hits you is the sheer unadulterated energy of the page. There is no white space. Every single square inch is used to build a world. It's an explosion of optimistic, saturated color. The background is a cheerful lemon yellow, the kind of color you almost never see today unless it's on a construction vehicle. The refrigerator itself is a beautiful seafoam green, and the food spilling out of it is a rainbow of vibrant reds, oranges, and greens. This wasn't just color, it was a statement about post-war prosperity and hope. This ad doesn't whisper, it sings. And at the heart of its song is a stunningly detailed hand-drawn illustration. This is our first major break from the modern era. Today we get sterile, perfect, 3D renders, or hyper-realistic photos. The product is shot in a void, totally isolated from people. But this 1955 AD gives us the exact opposite. It gives us this idealized, almost theatrical scene of domestic bliss. A smiling mother in a perfect apron is pulling a glistening pitcher of orange juice from the door. Two impossibly happy children are pointing in wonder at just how much food there is. The father, peeking in from the side, has a look of proud satisfaction. This isn't just a refrigerator. It's the anchor of a happy, successful family. The product wasn't just an object, it was the centerpiece of the aspirational American dream. The illustration lets the artist do what photography can't. It allows for exaggeration, for fantasy. The gleam on the chrome handle is just a little too bright. The condensation on the milk bottle is a little too perfect. The strawberries are the reddest strawberries that have ever existed. The artist isn't trying to capture reality, they're crafting a fantasy of effortless perfection, of abundance, of a future where even your leftovers look glamorous. Now let's talk about the layout. Modern ads are obsessed with a clear, simple visual path. Your eye is supposed to go to one place, usually the product or the logo. It's efficient, sure, but it's also profoundly uninteresting. This 1950s ad, though, invites your eye to dance around the page. It's a busy layout, but it's a controlled chaos. Your eye is probably drawn first to the mother's smiling face, the human heart of the image. From there, it follows her arm down to the pitcher of juice, which leads you right into the cornucopia inside the refrigerator. You scan the shelves, marveling at the jello molds, the pristine heads of lettuce, the rows of soda bottles. Then your eye moves up, pulled by the bold headline, and then drifts over to the blocks of text that promise to tell you more. It's a journey. The ad doesn't just ask for a split second of your attention, it asks you to move in, explore, and spend time in the world it created. And then there's the typography. Oh, the typography. If modern advertising has committed one cardinal sin, it's the worldwide neutralization of the typeface. We live in a world of clean, geometric, and you could argue soulless sans serifs. They're legible, yes, but that legibility often comes at the cost of personality. This Galaxy ad, on the other hand, uses a whole cocktail of different fonts to create texture and emotion. The brand name, Galaxy, is written in this sweeping atomic age script. The letters look like they're moving, full of jet age optimism and a sense of cosmic importance. It feels like the future. The main headline, "The future of freshness is here," is set in a thick, confident, slab serif font. It's sturdy, it's bold, it's a declaration. It doesn't ask for your attention, it demands it. It has weight, it has presence. And finally, the body copy, those long paragraphs of text that modern designers are terrified of, is set in a classic, readable, a serif font. It feels warm, traditional, and trustworthy. It invites you to settle in and read the story. Each font was chosen for a specific job to evoke a specific feeling. The typography wasn't just for delivering information, it was part of the art. The copy itself is the final piece of this puzzle. Today's ad copy is often short, pithy, and vague. It's a hashtag, a mantra. It's just do it or think different. This ad has paragraphs. It has confidence. It assumes you're interested and it rewards that interest with actual information. It would say things like, acres of space. The new Galaxy Super Chill boasts a revolutionary 12 cubic feet of storage with a jumbo freezer compartment big enough for the whole family. It would use evocative, persuasive language like, our patented Arctic flow system circulates frigid air to every corner, locking in farm-fresh flavor for weeks. It tells a story of innovation. It makes claims. It presents the refrigerator not just as a cold box, but as a piece of cutting-edge technology that will genuinely improve your life. It sells the dream, but it backs it up with details. This one ad is a masterclass in a forgotten art. It uses illustration to build a world, composition to guide your eye, typography to create emotion, and copy to tell a story. It is bursting with confidence, energy, and ideas. It is everything that many modern ads are not. The synthesis. So, why the huge gap between the rich narrative world of the 1955 Galaxy ad and the sterile minimalist landscape of today? It's not like there was some global meeting where all the world's marketers decided to make things boring. No, the answer is more complex. It's a story of changing technology, changing culture, and a changing relationship with the very idea of being sold something. I think the fundamental difference comes down to courage versus caution. The 1950s ad is an act of creative courage. It throws everything at the wall. It's loud, busy, colorful, and wordy. It tries to be an illustration, a technical manual, and a short story all at once. It risks being overwhelming because it believes so deeply in its own message. The modern ad is an exercise in extreme caution. In a globalized, hyper-connected world, the main goal is often not to persuade, but to not offend, to be brand safe. A minimalist design with a muted color palette and a generic font is safe. It won't be misinterpreted across cultures. No one is going to call it tacky or loud. It will pass through every level of corporate approval without raising a single red flag. It's been optimized for inoffensiveness, and the cost of that optimization is its soul. The technological context is, of course, a massive factor. The 1955 ad was designed for one thing, the glossy page of a magazine. The reader would be sitting down, relaxed, with time to absorb the details. The ad's complexity was a feature, not a bug. Today's ad has to work everywhere, instantly. It has to be legible on a watch face. It has to grab you in the half second before you scroll past it on Instagram. It needs to work on a giant digital billboard and a tiny phone screen. This relentless demand for versatility has driven design towards a minimalist average. Clean fonts and simple layouts aren't just a style choice. They're a practical necessity for a world viewed through 1,000 different screens. Legibility has replaced artistry as the primary virtue. But maybe the most profound shift is psychological. The 1950s ad worked on a simple premise. For many people, consumerism was a new and exciting adventure. People were genuinely excited about new technology transforming their daily lives. The ad's job was to show off the product, explain its features, and make you aspire to own it. It was selling a better life through the product. We, in the 2000s and 20s, are a much more cynical audience. We see thousands of ads a day. We're drowning in stuff. A shiny new refrigerator doesn't fill us with that same sense of wonder. We know deep down that the promise of a perfect life through a purchase isn't quite true. So, advertisers had to change tactics. They shifted from selling the product to selling an idea. They're no longer selling you a running shoe. They're selling you athletic achievement. They're no longer selling you a smartphone. They're selling you connection. They're no longer selling you a soda. They're selling you happiness. This shift to conceptual lifestyle marketing is a huge driver of visual minimalism. The product itself becomes less important than the brand's ethos. And how do you visually represent an abstract concept like community or innovation? You use clean, abstract, minimalist design. The ad becomes a blank canvas where we can project our own hopes. It's a more subtle form of persuasion, and it's also visually a lot more boring. Finally, we have the rise of the algorithm. 1950s advertising was a broadcast medium. You made one ad and hoped the right people saw it. Today's advertising is a precision weapon, personalized using vast amounts of data about us. But this has a weird effect. While the ads are tailored specifically to you, they often feel strangely impersonal. This data-driven approach favors what's statistically proven to work. A/B testing will inevitably lead you down a path of optimization, and optimization is the enemy of daring creativity. Art is about taking risks. Algorithms are about eliminating them. The result is an endless feedback loop of safe, predictable, and ultimately forgettable ads. So, are we doomed to a future of blandvertising? Am I just being nostalgic and romanticizing the past? Maybe a little. But the point here isn't to argue that we should go back to making ads like it's 1955. The world has changed and advertising has to change with it. The often stereotypical depiction of the family in 1950s ads is something we have rightfully moved beyond. Our modern focus on inclusivity and diversity in advertising is a massive and important step forward. The lesson from the Galaxy Super Chill 800 isn't about style, it's about spirit. It's a lesson in creative confidence. It's a reminder that an ad can be a piece of art. It can be rich, detailed, and engaging. It can have a point of view. It can have a personality. The creators of that 1950s ad believed in their product, respected their audience enough to give them details, and used every artistic tool they had, color, illustration, typography, and storytelling, to create something memorable. Today, in our quest for data-driven, brand-safe, cross-platform perfection, we seem to have forgotten some of that. We have optimized the art out of advertising. We've traded the daring of the artist for the caution of the committee. We've swapped a rich, detailed oil painting for a minimalist vector icon. And while it may be more efficient, it's infinitely less interesting. We've gained optimization, but I think we've lost some of the magic. And that feels like a terrible trade. But what do you think? Am I just romanticizing the past, or is there a real lesson here for modern brands? More importantly, are there any modern ads or companies that you think are breaking this boring mold and creating something genuinely artistic and courageous? Let me know in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious to see the examples you find. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the world of design and culture. Thanks for watching.